Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Impactful Teamwork. My name's Julia Felton, and I'm going to be your host for the next 20 minutes or so while we delve into an interesting aspect of teamwork around technology today. So, I wanted to bring on a guest to support us today, and his name is Andy Price, and Andy runs Initial IT. Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. And we're really looking forward to hearing your wisdom and expertise about IT and teamwork and cybersecurity, some of the things we've been talking about. But perhaps you could just share with everyone, give everyone a little introduction to yourself. Let's kick off
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Very kind. So yeah, my name's Andy Price. I'm founder of Initial IT. We're a multi-award winning IT company based in the Midlands, and we really focus around two areas of IT and technology. The first one is really trying to break down tech to be simple to use. We see so many businesses and business owners overcomplicating technology, and it just leaves them in a world of pain. The second thing we do is we put a real focus in on security. We see every day the likes of Marks and Spencers and Harrods and Co-op having these massive problems with cyber attack, and we work with a lot smaller companies than those, but it's still prevalent in those businesses. And I think there's a big sort of knowledge gap for business owners around what they can do and how much it can impact their business.
Yeah. And I was shocked by a statistic I just read on your website that said 60% of small businesses fail after a cybersecurity attack. So just listen to that, everyone. 60% of businesses. So this is a really live issue. And obviously, you just cite there people like the Co-op, Harrods, Marks and Spencers, people like that have had cybersecurity issues. And so it's not just limited to big companies, it's every company.
So
So, what are some strategies that small businesses can put in place, and small and scaling businesses can put in place to mitigate this? Because I think it's sometimes cybersecurity, either we're in the mindset of it won't happen to me, or we're like,
absolutely.
oh, that's too complicated. I'm just going to put on my blinkers and just ignore
But,
it.
and that's exactly the problem. You've hit both of the pain points right on the head, right? I'm either too small. Who's going to attack an estate agent on the high street or a little restaurant? Jeremy Clarkson's pub got hit early this week. They
Mm,
stole £27,000 off him.
wow.
It's just a pub, right? And the reality is that there aren't these people sat in dark rooms wearing hoodies that are tracking people down and looking for people on the internet to go and attack. It's purely opportunistic. So what happens is they're doing these vast scans across the internet, and all they're looking for is weakness. And when they find a weakness, they then start pulling at it and trying to cause damage. They don't know whether that's the NHS or Bob's Books or anything in between until they get in a lot of the time. Yes, there are targeted strategic attacks, but we're not talking about those with small businesses. That's a very different sort of thing. What we're talking about is those opportunistic issues where people have just stumbled across a weakness that you have that you don't know exists and will exploit
Mm,
it. And really, the two major issues that we see at the moment are once a business is exposed to an attack, their data is then lifted off that business into the internet, into what they call the dark web. So you've got a massive problem where you've lost a lot of client data. So then you've got to go and report that to the ICO. You've got to inform your clients that you've lost their data. Yeah, massive reputational problem. We see a lot of businesses that find it really hard after an attack to pick up new clients because it's all their reputation shot. A lot of companies will lose clients after an attack for the same reason. The other major problem is ransomware. And what ransomware is
that's it.
a where when an instance happened, they will actually encrypt the files on your computer, on your servers, wherever they happen to be, which means you can't open them. So you try and open a file and you just get an error message. And then what they do is they demand payment, usually through something like Bitcoin, for the recovery of those files. And that can be 200, 300, 500,000 pounds. And that can be devastating But because if you pay it, you've lost an awful lot of money. If you haven't, you can't operate your business. If you thought of an accountant firm or a solicitors that have got thousands of case files and evidence and all stored online, and all of a sudden they can't access any of them, the damage to the business, but also their clients, is catastrophic.
Absolutely. Wow.
And yeah, and those are the two of the really big issues we see at the moment. And the problem with it is that what you mentioned at the start is people either think I'm too small or I just don't understand it and I don't know where to begin. So we do that typical thing as humans do, is we just bury our head in the sand and not worry about it. It's a tomorrow problem. And there are a few things that we can do, some of them more complex than others, but I think the first thing to do is go and speak to someone like myself that, yeah, has got some knowledge that can at least guide you and put you in the right direction for some of this stuff. So there was a recent cyber attack at Legal Aid happened back in April to the people that help people that need legal support that can't afford it. And they had a massive cyber incident. And what they've now said to all their clients, so legal solicitors that use legal aid, is that they need to have something called cyber essentials in order to continue to work with them. So what Cyber Essentials is a government framework that says you need to have these things in place to be adequately protected. It's what they call a minimum standard. We can always improve security above that level, but as a minimum, a business should have these things in place. Now, really, any growing business needs to start thinking about that standard. Cyber Essentials. You can go and Google it. It's online. It's a government-led standard, but and that looks at how old your software is, how you handle levers and joiners, lots of technical controls around the business to make sure it's safe. The other big thing that we can do as business owners is empower our team. So
Yeah.
I think one of the big problems with cybersecurity is that previously it's been, and still today, it's seen as when you get that email that comes through that says, click this link to, I don't know, get your free Amazon voucher. People click it, they put their username and password in, and all of a sudden they realize there's been a breach. Or sometimes they don't actually, but in most cases they feel something's wrong. Now, human nature says what we tend to do is we just hide because we think we've done something wrong. We're going to get told off or in trouble, so we hide. And I think as business owners, we need to encourage honesty and encourage people to put their hand up, because these attacks these days are so sophisticated that IT experts are falling for them. They're not like a badly worded email that you can spot a mile off anywhere these days. They're using AI to generate stuff. They're highly sophisticated. So what we really need to change the blame culture, and instead we need to train our staff. So there should be some level of training within the business so people recognize these threats so they can start defending themselves. They say nowadays that people are actually the weakest link in IT security, because we can put all these different firewall things and software and security and all this into a business, but all it takes is someone to enter their username and password wrong, or give permissions somewhere they shouldn't, or not follow a process. It can cause major problems. Yeah, I think training your people is absolutely key these days.
Yeah. And this comes back to a topic that we talk a lot about in the podcast, which is about how do we create psychological safety in the workplace so that team members feel that they can speak up and go, actually, I think I might have triggered something. I hit a ring. There's something trying to download on my computer. And I think that this is so important, everyone, that we really need to recognize that security is an integral part of our business and our technology. And we're getting more and more technology that we're using in business now with AI. But collectively, Everybody in the organization has a responsibility. It's not just the IT director or the IT manager or the business owner's responsibility to ensure the safety of the systems. It is everybody's. And we all want to create safety in the areas that we work in. And usually we think about that safety more in a kind of physical way, a physical manner, a safe
Mhm.
workplace from health and safety. But this is a similar sort of thing to health and safety in the workplace. It's our IT safety in the workplace. And yeah, I just know from my own experience how sophisticated these people are, Andy. It's just incredible. And I think I'm a pretty smart cookie. And I even had somebody recently from my bank, but or impersonating to be my bank, should I say. And they knew so much about me. They
Mhm.
knew that I'd had previous fraud on this particular card and how was it related. And anyway, it went on and on. And he like even gave me a case reference number. I was like,
Okay, yeah.
anyway, yeah, he was really good. It went on and on. And then the only giveaway for me was I had two accounts with this particular bank and he didn't know which one it was. And he didn't know I
Right.
had two accounts with it. And
Mm.
and then he said something like, I need the long number on the card. I'm like, surely you've got that. No, I didn't have it. Oh, you do.
Yeah.
And then he then started getting quite aggressive because I wouldn't give him the data. And I'm like, but you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me how I mustn't give my data to anyone, and now you're asking for it. So I'm like, thank you, but no thanks. And of course I called the bank and it was all a scam.
Yeah.
But he was very, very good. And yeah, so it's so easy for people to get pulled in on
And I
all of these.
think the reality is, I think everyone has this image, don't they? I think, of I keep going back to this young kid with a hoodie on with his hood up and like tapping away on
Yeah.
his keyboard in the dark. It's not like that at all. The cybercrime is a fully fledged industry out in those countries like Russia and China and those sorts of places, a lot in Africa as well. They're legitimate businesses. They are people sat in offices that do this on a daily basis. And if you have a disgruntled employee or you got a username and
Mm.
password into a business, you can actually go out and you can find a company that will hack the business for you. You pay them some money, or they take a portion of the money they ransom off the company, and they will go and do it. And this is, I say, a legitimate business. It's not really legitimate in
Yeah.
terms of legality, but they are a fully formed organization that sits out there in office blocks in various parts of the world. So it's a serious moneymaker, and this is why it's so sophisticated. And there's probably spent a lot of time harvesting your details and researching you and buying information about you to then be able to have that phone call. But it all comes back to they need certain things from you. So then, if it's a lot of the time, it's about getting your bank card. So
Mm.
it's it comes down to what's your address, what's your credit card number, what's your bank account number, and the second I get those questions, I'm like, it's not happening. No one ever needs
Yeah.
to know my credit card number and or my username and password. But people are so convincing that they the other thing is on a good day, you're feeling strong, you're feeling confident, you're switched on, you're awake, you get a call like that, you spot it a mile off. But if they just happen to hit you when you've had some bad news, you're not feeling great, you're just in one of those places, mental health isn't very good, or it's so easy to not spot those signs quickly. And I think that's why we have to empower our teams with knowledge and information and support so we can start defending it against this sort of stuff because
Yeah.
it's a serious problem.
Yeah. And it's so interesting talking to you because it's really making me think, wow, there's a lot of these things that perhaps I need to relook at in my business. I want to just loop back though to something you were talking about earlier on, which was the ransomware. Because I know and I talk to friends and other business owners and that. What's your experience of how good are people at actually backing up their data? And if you
Okay.
had backed up your data, could you avoid getting a ransom threat because you've got all the data somewhere else? Because I started to back up mine to a remote hard drive in case the computer crashed, but that's in
Hmm.
my house. So say my house got broken into, that's not very helpful, right? And now I back it up onto the web as well,
Yeah.
multiple different places. But what's your best strategy for
So,
business owners, business leaders about making sure you're protecting your data in that sense?
so people tend to be terrible at backup, right? They're terrible.
Right.
The people that are good at backup are people that have already lost data and had an experience. And I'm talking very broad terms, but
Yeah.
you know, typically, if you've had an incident or you've lost some really important data, you learn the lesson and you wear the scars
The
and you
hard way.
do it again. And people always try and cheap out on backup as well. They just think, oh, I don't want to pay for it. And I always say to people, it's because backups are worthless, but restores are priceless. And
Yeah.
that's how we need to really see it. Is what's this data worth if I lost it? I've had companies where we've been running quite sophisticated, expensive backups with them for 10 years and they've never needed to restore it. But the
Mm.
day they do, all that investment will be worth it. And obviously, we've had lots of companies that do need to restore their data, and it's um, having that infrastructure is there is vital. So really, the key is it's got to be offsite. So backing up to a hard drive, a USB stick, anything like that is just not good enough because again, a sophisticated cyber attack will go after your backups first. So it will
Right.
destroy your backup and then it will destroy your data. And they do that for a very good reason. So you can't restore your data. There are certain backup services that do what they call immutable backups. So a backup, so once it's written, can never be changed. And really, those are the ones that we need to be doing. So for our clients, we back up their Microsoft accounts, so their OneDrive, email, SharePoint, Teams data, all that sort of stuff. And we back it up into a cloud repository that's fully managed and it's an immutable backup, and it backs up about 4 times a day. Not particularly expensive, a few pounds a month per staff member. But what it means is once that data is written, no one's changing it. Doesn't matter. It's not
Right.
connected to the office. It's not. No, no one could find where that data was if they got into the system, and it's a really critical part of running a business. You've got, I
Mm.
would say that it's a bit like a seesaw, really. You've got the risk reduction on the one side, where you've got to put those tactical security measures in place, long passwords, your 2FA codes on your phone, all like reducing the risk of getting an attack. But at the same time, on the other side, you've got to make sure that you can recover because we don't
Mhm.
know what's going to come out tomorrow. We don't know. It's an attack and defense game, and unfortunately, attackers have always got the upper hand. So we have to be prepared. And I always think that good backups that can't be changed, that can restore quickly, that are tested, is always a solid investment.
Mhm. And so what we're saying then is like just backing up your whole drive onto your Google Drive, for example, is not robust enough.
It's not robust enough. It's better than nothing,
Yeah.
um, but it's not really robust enough because, again, a sophisticated attack would detect that you're using Google Drive and it'll just go and delete it or encrypt it or do
Right.
whatever it's got to do. So yeah, they're so advanced these days. We've seen these automated tools that get infected on a business network and will go and
Mm.
hunt out different backups and destroy them. So it's really important to make sure it's off-site, somewhere separate, and it's just peace of mind then.
Yeah. I guess, the way to think about it, it's like it's the same way that we pay for business insurance. This is basically our IT insurance, right?
Yeah,
Because it's that thing that you don't really you pay for, but you never really use. But when
yeah,
you need to call it in, you're so glad
absolutely.
you've had it, right?
Absolutely. I very often say it's a little bit like insurance because we hope we never need it. We hope we never crash the
Mm.
car or need to claim on the
Yeah.
house insurance or anything else. But you're right. When you need it, oh God, thank God it's there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
it can be seen as a bit of an insurance policy.
Yeah. So everyone, you can hear how passionate Andy is about IT and its importance for us and the technology within the workplace for us. But before I came on air, I was just reading Andy's story, and I think it's really interesting. And I've asked him if he would mind sharing it with us because Andy has a really interesting story about how he got into IT. He didn't know about it, wasn't always his passion right at the beginning. So, Andy, perhaps you can just share with everyone because we know that when we work in an industry and doing a job that we're really passionate about, we're so engaged, we're so motivated. That's what we want for our team members. So I'm curious about how did you stumble into this area? Because I know when I was at school, we didn't talk about things like IT. I was in school pre-internet, probably
Yeah,
you were as well. Things were very different back then.
yeah,
Technology no way had the impact on our lives that it has nowadays.
yeah. AI was just in movies,
Oh
if that,
yeah,
even that.
computers weren't even there. I remember my first year, Amstrad, Alan Sugar, Amstrad
Yeah,
computer, doing my university dissertation on that. And we didn't have computers. This wasn't a problem back then. So
absolutely. Yeah.
how did you come across it?
I take you back to me being sort of 13, 14 at school. And I think that I wasn't an academic learner, and the school I was at was all about academia, and it pretty much destroyed my confidence, to be honest. I was in year 10, year 11, dreading these GCSE things turning up. And I'd pretty much at that time assign myself the fact that I might get a job in a shop one day. I'm probably only going to end up on the dole because I'm just stupid. I'd labelled myself stupid. I dug deep. I've always worked hard. I'm a workhorse. So I dug deep. I got through the grades. I didn't do particularly well, but I sort of along a similar time, my dad was quite a big influence in my life, and he'd run an office equipment company. So he was doing like dictation and those fax machines and those and sorts of things. And then computers came along and he was, oh, let's have a look at this. And so he piqued my interest a little bit with that along while I was still at school. And I saw an opportunity after leaving school to go to college. And again, self-esteem pretty low, thinking, let's go and try and see this. And I think within 2 weeks, my mental state had completely shifted. I'd gone from the bottom of the class to the top of the class and asking the
Wow.
teacher for more homework. I was
Oh,
that
wow.
kid. And I would have loved to have got some comments from my high school teachers about what they thought I was ever going to do, because it'd be really interesting to see now. But yeah, the shift was massive. I found something I was interested in, and all of a sudden it wasn't sat reading a book, it was doing stuff. We were building circuits and all these different, it was an electronics based course, but just my, and all, it was this, I had this realization sat in class that, oh my God, I'm not stupid. And it was the first time I think I'd ever told myself that actually I could do this. And my passion has ran ever since. I've had bumps and peaks and upsets we all do in life, but I got onto this road where I just loved what I was doing. And shortly after I finished that course, a friend of the family actually was like, I work with computers. I'm looking for an apprenticeship sort of person. And I took that on and I just fell in love with the industry instantly because of its fast pace. You're always having to dive in and learn new stuff. Yeah, so you're trying to learn a new career. That is also traveling at 1,000 miles an hour as an industry. And I loved the pace. I was never bored because there's always something new, some new software coming out.
Yeah.
Microsoft released, this person has done that. So I was just constantly in learning mode. And I, the shift in my head from education as a negative thing to a positive thing was immense. And it's one of the biggest learning points of my life, I think, because I realized actually I could never understand these people that wanted to go to A levels and at university and learn more stuff because of this way my head worked. But now I got it and I was like, and I'll never look back.
Yeah, and everyone, Andy's very modest. He's built £1 million businesses in the IT space and helped hundreds of clients, both large and small, to improve their IT. And I think thank you for sharing that story, because I think it so resonates with listeners of the podcast, because we're always talking here about how do we release the hidden potential in our team members.
Mhm.
And folks, you've just heard it there. It's about helping our team members find the thing that they're really passionate about
Yes.
and the thing that lights them up. And sometimes they don't even know what it is. And that's why often giving team members new projects to do, all of a sudden somebody realizes and experiences like you did. I was like, you didn't know. If somebody had said to you, would you work with computers? You probably would have said no. When you're
Yeah,
put into that situation and you have to do it, and then you're like, oh my God, it all falls together. And
yeah,
it, the level of energy and engagement that gives team members when they can get into that flow is amazing. And of course, then the ripple impact for the business is more profitability, more productivity, because everyone's doing what they love within the business. Thank you for sharing that story, because it's just such a
oh, you're
real
more than
life
welcome.
example of what we talk about here, about how do we unlock that hidden potential in team members, is give them opportunities they didn't know they wanted. But also, what a sad story that you had gone through the education system feeling nothing was possible for you.
Yeah, and
And
I reflect a
that's
lot on
sad.
that. It is, and actually, it's my daughter's done the same thing. So she's almost identically minded to me, and I'm now 25 years on, looking at the same story as well. But the benefit now is I'm like, don't worry, because
Mhm.
we're going to go and find your passion. You got to get this bit
Mhm.
done, but we're going to find your passion. And she's a massive animal lover, and she's going to do something with animals, I'm sure.
All
Um,
right. Yeah.
but yeah, but the fact that now I can now relate that back to my daughter and help her go through that same journey
Mhm.
is incredible. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's those parts of your life where it's not quite great and it's not quite all roses and sunshine. And the bits where you really learn about yourself and you get that grit. And I think that's what that
Mhm.
gave me is grit to crack on.
Yeah. 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 Oh well. So let's just, as we bring this to a close, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I recorded a podcast last week that was all about the importance of soft skills in business because of the advent of AI. AI is going to take over quite a lot of maybe perhaps the more mundane, laborious tasks. And therefore, it's more important that our team members have great communication skills, critical thinking, problem solving skills, all the kind of human connection things that AI can't do, at least not yet. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just love to bring this to a close by thinking about what's some of your thoughts on the impact of AI on the tech industry and on business generally. What are you seeing with your clients? Because obviously you're at the forefront of that in the Pacific industry that you're in.
Yeah. I mean, we use a lot of AI within our business. We're doing a lot of really great stuff with when people log tickets with us, log problems with us. We're using a lot of AI to really analyze what that problem is and how we can help them faster or to try and become more efficient. I think AI is probably the biggest and best innovation since the internet. I think it's certainly up there in terms of the way it's going to change the world. I
Yeah.
think the problem with AI comes with, first off, the cyber criminals of the world also use AI. So that's something to
Yeah.
consider. They're also
Scam.
like, yeah, God damn it. They also have a Chat GPT subscription, and now they're able to put together eloquent emails that trick us rather than the terribly spelling ones that we saw like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And so there's that side, but also I think it can destroy your creativity if you're not careful. You can,
Mm.
when you rely too much on it, oh, write me an email to do this, write me a thing to do that, write me a blog post to say this. It can really just make everything quite flat. And
Mm.
it is artificial intelligence, it's not human intelligence. And I think we really have to find that balance between using it for what it's good at, but not replacing humans. And I think, and so you see, there's a certain LinkedIn post you read, a certain email you get, and you're like, you use words like that. Like, it's so obvious. The big long dashes are the biggest giveaway, the M dash.
Yeah.
The second they get an email with them dashing, I'm like, come on, you could have at least deleted those. But I think for me, I know there's been some studies about, and I can't remember what university it was, but they were doing studies on people that used AI and people that didn't. And the people that didn't, creative part of their mind was so much more active, which I thought was quite an interesting
Mm.
point. So, as good, I suppose it's a bit thinking back to the internet, it's a similar thing. All of a sudden, access to data was so
Mm.
accessible. You didn't have to go and research and find out and study and
Go to a library, God
go to the
forbid. A
library.
library. What was that?
So yes, it's got a massive benefit, but actually, that research probably gave people a lot of knowledge and a lot of stuff that they don't have anymore. And I think this is a similar thing. It's all about speeding up everything, isn't it? It's what we try and do. But so I think that as great as these tools are, they've got to enhance what's already there. I very often put an email through AI to make it sound better, but I'll write the email and okay, make this sound more connected or more professional. Or I don't say, AI, write me an email to sell this to a client, because it's just not, it's not how it's meant to be. And I very much believe in people by people. It's all about, we don't buy products and services, we're buying someone's trust, we're buying someone because we like
Yeah.
that person. And the more AI we put between us and our clients, we risk losing that if we're not careful. Like I said, I think it's
Yeah.
probably one of the best inventions we'll see in my lifetime, but it has to be used with care and attention.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that because it is, and I know I'm guilty of sometimes. Yeah, I just put it into Chat GPT, but I'm spending a lot of time trying to educate Chat
Mhm.
GPT about my IP, my thinking, and stuff like that. Although, actually, thinking about hacks, this is an interesting aside, totally aside. I just discovered that one of my books has been scraped and put in Claude, and there's a big lawsuit going on in the US
Mm.
for some of the AI going out and taking people's intellectual property,
Yeah,
which my
yeah.
stuff's all copyrighted. And I found it. I was just on reading something about, I don't know, yeah, from somebody I get, and then it said, oh, there's been, and I was like, oh, I'll just have a look whether my book was on there. I was like, yeah. So I've put in my claim.
It
You won't get anything out of it, but that's a big problem for us,
is a
actually,
big
for all
problem.
business owners about how do we protect our IP
From where I am,
from
yeah.
getting used by from AI. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because it, some people will say, well, it's interesting that AI has picked up your book and now can reference that, but then
Mm.
should, there's a value to that information, and there's you haven't done it for free. You've spent a lot of time and hard work and education.
Years putting it together.
Yeah. So actually, it does hold a value. And then there's the
Mm.
side. Actually, there's probably someone out there that's wrote a book that might disagree with some of your comments, or is kind of the other side. If AI brings that in, how does it know which is then true and not? So you get
Mm.
this, and
Yeah.
there's been lots of reports recently about AI making up stats and making up
Mm.
statements. You do really have to
Hmm.
go back to basics, go back to, and this is what I think we'll see, is you can't buy cereal at the moment without having AI stamped on the box. Everywhere you go, it's blowing your face. That's going to disappear, I think. And
Hmm.
products like your phone will have AI in it, but you won't even know it. They won't talk about it because it's in everything. It'll be in your car, it'll be in your microwave, it'll be in everywhere, but it's a bit like having a computer in something, or a computer in a watch, there's a computer in everything, but probably in this
Hmm.
microphone. But no one talks about it anymore because it's in everything. And I think we'll see that
Yeah.
same evolution with AI, and hopefully we'll find that balance of using it
Mm.
for what it's good at, and mundane tasks, removing the noise, like cleaning up information, all those things it's really good at. But we still need creative
Mm.
minds to really
Yeah.
lead and challenge and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Excellent. Andy, thank you so much for sharing your insights on technology, IT sector, cybersecurity, backing up. We've covered a lot of topics as well as your personal story into how you got into IT. I really appreciate you sharing that with us today. It's been such a pleasure to have you here on Impactful Teamwork.
Well, thank
No, you're so welcome. And is there anything, any resources or anything that you would like to share with the listeners? You're more than welcome to. I know I've just put you on the spot saying that. I know you do
and
like
I think that,
audits,
and
don't you?
I can probably, if people want a conversation about any of the stuff we've talked about, I'm more than happy to set up a call and have a chat with people. I do fairly regular webinar sessions, monthly
Okay.
webinars about cyber. I'm doing one in October for the legal industry. So maybe what if I share my Linktree QR code with you? That means people can
Yeah.
connect to me on Facebook,
Absolutely.
WhatsApp, all that sort of thing, and share that on screen. So yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, whatever you need to do.
Thank you very much. So we'll put all of Andy's details, everyone, in the show notes so you've got that. But Andy, thank you so much again for your time. It's been such a pleasure and we've enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon.
Okay, take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.